we're going to talk Oregon. Steve, we just witnessed an instant classic in Eugene, and there were some recruits on campus. What do you think the recruiting impact of this one's going to be?
Well, I've already logged one Oregon on 3 RPM in favor of the Ducks following this ball game. Two-way standout linebacker target McKay Madsen, like Oregon there as they battle UCLA and BYU. They had him in camp this summer, have him on campus right now. Traded some texts with him after the ball game, and him and his mom are having a fantastic time in Eugene right now. Look, Oregon, you can't rule them out for anybody, right? We called him a dark horse for 5-star cornerback Na'im Offord, committed to Ohio State coming into the visit, but they're certainly in the thick of that one. His dad has told me Dan Lanning's their favorite coach. So on campus to watch Oregon get the biggest win of the Dan Lanning era so far. Tight end, major position of need for Oregon. They offered Vanderplug earlier in the fall. Right. Now they get him on campus, traded some messages with him. He's having a good time at Oregon.
I bet he is right now. So look, right now,
Jahkeem Stewart called it the game of the year.
In the wake of a win like this, what's the recruits' experience right now, 5-10 minutes after the game's ended?
Well, that's the beauty of it, right? When you bring in all these blue chippers for a game like this, you bring them into your locker room after the game and they get to soak in what it's like to win a ball game like this, because these are the kind of games they see themselves playing in on the college level, and now they get to go in the locker room, be around the players. It's going to be rowdy in that locker room. The coaches are in a fantastic mood. Their families are going to be around. All the administrators at Oregon, Phil Knight on down. This is, a terrific environment in and outside the Oregon locker room, and these recruits have a front row seat for it. And these are guys that can help keep it rolling for the Ducks for years to come. So Jahkeem Stewart coming into the visit, you talk about it's going to be hard at the end of the day for LSU to let this kid leave their state. But look, there's been times where Ohio State's been the leader.
You go out and you put a performance like this together.
Right, exactly right. So there's been times where Ohio State has looked like the leader for Jahkeem Stewart. Times where USC has looked like the leader for Jahkeem Stewart. But he has called Dan Lanning a defensive mastermind in conversations before. He's been on campus several times. He got there on Friday, so soaked in all the pregame buildup Friday, Saturday morning, attended the game, having a fabulous experience. And Oregon is in the thick of that one for Jahkeem Stewart.
Yeah, just unbelievable. Jahkeem Stewart, Vanderplug, like you said, Na'im Offord. I mean, I don't know. You just said that recruits come to a game like this and they imagine themselves in this situation, but Na'im Offord, he's committed to Ohio State. I wonder which sideline he's imagining himself on after a game like this. Obviously, Oregon has a foot in the door. I wouldn't say that he was on flip watch heading into this, but an experience like this, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
No, absolutely. Again, these are the kind of games that these recruits see themselves playing in, and to watch Oregon get the first major win of the Dan Lanning era. They've been close. They've been in these ball games. They've been on the cusp of the college football playoff. They're one of the favorites to win the national championship now after a performance like this without Jordan Birch, their top pass rusher. But to hold court at home in a game like this was obviously huge. And the recruiting ramifications, Oregon looking for a second straight top 5 recruiting class, third straight top 10 class. Caleb Burns, he's a linebacker from the Lone Star State on 300 recruit. Oklahoma's put out a late offer to him too. Baylor commit. Well, Oklahoma, they got ran over today by the Texas Longhorns, while Caleb Burns is watching Oregon get a huge win over Ohio State, arguably the best win any team has had in college football this season to date.
So you put in one new pick, and how about that? I mean, you're watching this recruit reaction show. You love college football. You love recruiting, and you got Steve Wiltfong just dropping picks in the minutes after Oregon wins. You got to love that. So are you thinking about putting a pick in for Caleb Burns here to flip from Baylor?
Well, I'd like to talk to him first and get a true sense of how this visit's going. And look, Oregon's in the mix for a lot of guys here down the stretch as Dan Lanning and company look to get spatula crazy. Noah McHale is a linebacker that's currently committed to Texas A&M that they're still going to war with the Aggies for him as well. But there's no question. Look, when Caleb Burns got offered by Oregon that day, he had this game on the calendar circled. I'm going to Eugene. I'm going to watch them play Ohio State. And they delivered, man. And I'm telling you again, Dan Lanning, his defensive track record, some of the players that he coached at the University of Georgia, particularly at the linebacker position, that's really going to stand out to players like Caleb Burns while they're on campus. Zach Stokowski look, Oregon's losing 5 or 6 of their top 7 offensive linemen after the season. So they want to still add guys at that position. They offered Zach earlier in the fall, getting him on campus this weekend as well. And I know they love to stick it to Washington.
Right, I was going to say that.
Look, I mean, like Washington moving with Oregon to the Big Ten was only right, because that's a hell of a rivalry that they've had over the last couple of years. But Oregon, they're clicking on all cylinders right now. Again, Naeem Offord coming out. There was a little bit of a confusion. Confusion is not the right word. He had this visit circled. He was going to come to the Ohio State-Oregon game. Oregon wanted him to come in a couple weeks to have a more low-key visit where he could spend more time with the coaching staff. I think that's because they know they got to make up ground, right? He's been to Auburn several times this fall, games and practice. Obviously, he's committed to Ohio State. So you bring him in on a weekend like this, how much time are you truly going to get to spend with him, with your defensive staff, with your head coach, with this big game going on, all the hoopla? Dan Lanning's on like 4 different TV shows before the game and did a hell of a job, you know. But now, I mean,
it looks a lot. It looks great when you win.
But now they get the win.
Yeah.
So they get that, right? And they can have those other conversations later. He got to see what Autzen Stadium was like at night. It looked alive there. The stadium seemed to be moving. And Oregon's going to be moving up the list for a lot of these guys. Had a lot of stud 2026s and 2027s on campus as well. You know, Max Torres, Justin Hopkins over there at our Oregon on 3 site are going to have a lot of coverage. Obviously, I'll be coming in there with what I'm hearing on the trail. But Oregon, they got a chance to finish with a spectacular class in 2026 too. You see those 2 jewels of the class, Tony Cumberland and Jonas Williams. They're both back in Eugene this weekend. Talanoa Illy is a prize linebacker recruit. Jet Washington has been to all the big games across the country. Las Vegas Bishop Gorman athlete that Oregon likes in the secondary. Davon Benjamin's a corner that they have a good shot to sign. Bot Mulatalo's been on campus a ton, a top 100 defensive lineman. So again, Oregon got it done. Humongous recruit section. Again, we saw what Jahkeem Stewart said earlier, best game ever. Been talking with his people through the week and traded some texts tonight. You know, as you can imagine, reception's not that great right now
around all those Autzen people going crazy in there.
But they're in the locker room now and they're partying it up, and it's they're front and center. And some of those guys will stay the night, so they'll go out with the players tonight. And
it's gonna be a fun night. Yeah, it's just getting going.
24-hour rule, but does it start right now? Let's get after it, baby.
Let's speaking of just getting going, so is the recruit reaction show. Let's bring in our cast of characters. Let's bring in Hayes Fawcett. Hayes, you were watching the game and you know everything that's going on behind the scenes. You know where the pieces could be moving to. What do you think a win like this does for Dan Lanning on the trail?
A win is huge for Dan Lanning and the Ducks. I mean, you look at all the top recruits that were there. You know, you got guys like Naeem Offord, who are committed to Ohio State, DeCorian Moore, who's currently committed to Oregon, who I exchanged some texts with during the game as well. I mean, the implications winning a big game like this are definitely huge. And, you know, we could definitely see some commitments coming after this game for sure.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. I'm going to have you all your tweets on notifications coming out of this one. A busy weekend. We're gonna get to some of these other games, but let's tie a bow on this Oregon.
Hayes, look, tonight, Jordan James, 115 yards and a touchdown. Evan Stewart out of the portal, 149 yards and a touchdown. Someone on offense or defense, who are you close with that's at Oregon that played well tonight?
Evan Stewart for sure. He was one that I was able to work with during high school, and also was fortunate enough to work with during the portal. Obviously, he was one of the top receivers in the 2022 class, I believe. Committed to A&M out of high school, and then recently entered the portal, and then ultimately chose the Ducks. And yeah, man, like he played great tonight, like you said, 170 yards, a touchdown. He also drew a very important pass interference late in the game that, ultimately led them to kicking that field goal toward the end.
Evan Stewart was committed to Texas at one point, ended up signing with Texas A&M, named Florida his leader at one time during his high school recruiting process as well. Then his portal journey wasn't as swift as some of the others too. Take us through what it was like covering him behind the scenes. Is he going in the portal? New coaching staff at A&M? Did he give them a chance? How quickly was it Oregon? What do you remember from Evan Stewart's portal journey?
From his portal journey, it was very quiet and kind of behind the scenes. I remember, throughout the portal, there's a lot of updates where, people were listing where they're visiting and schools reaching out. With Evan Stewart, everything was kind of kept close to the vest with him. I'm not sure if he visited any other school off the top of my head, but I do know that, Oregon, from the time he got in the portal, Oregon was, the school that, in my opinion, I thought had the best chance of landing him and ultimately did.
All right. Oregon fans, talk to us. How do you guys feel about this win? How about Ohio State taking a knee at the end of the game, essentially letting Oregon win the game? What a crazy ending to just a instant classic game. You guys talk to us. Comment section below. What do you think the recruiting implications will be from Oregon, Ohio State? Let us know.